Hello, everyone, and welcome to Niger Delta Today. This is where stories shaping our region meet the conversations that matter. My name is Xavier Roberts. Today, we are spotlighting a crucial shift that's putting the Niger Delta back at the center of Nigeria's oil success story. Talking about a new oil production high. Nigeria is reporting a crude output surge, but who's doing the real lifting? We'll be getting all of that today on the program. And we'll be unpacking the region's role in driving that recovery and what it means for jobs, justice, and the future of oil in the zone. We'll also bring you an overdue conversation on the Niger Delta perspective on resource control, equity, and regional stability. You recall, we're supposed to have that conversation yesterday. We'll be having that conversation today. It's a Parks program, so I'm inviting you to stay put as we delve straight into it. First on our radar is the story of interest. Now, this might just be the turning point we've been waiting for decades. Delta State has officially opened its electricity market to private investors, a major step towards transforming its electricity landscape with the adoption of a decentralized mini-grid model and the establishment of regulatory structures to drive a private sector-led power market. Now, speaking at a post-executive council press briefing in Asaba, the Commissioner for Economic Planning, Sonny Ekedayan, said the reform is in line with Governor Borivori's more agenda, which places emphasis on infrastructure and quality service delivery. Well, Ekedayan announced that the state would now operate a mini-grid electricity model, enabling multiple independent operators to generate, distribute, and supply power within their assigned zones. This new development may not have made us as much noise as new oil block license, but let's be honest, the future of the Niger Delta won't be written in barrels. It will be powered by light, reliable, uninterrupted power, that is. So you see, since the Electricity Act of 2023, states of the Niger Delta region are now legally empowered to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity independently of the national grid, and that law broke the NEPA PHCN monopoly and handed the keys finally to subnational governments. But while states like Lagos were quick to move, many Niger Delta states hesitated. But now Delta is stepping up, and indeed, of course, Akwa Ibom had already domesticated the law as well, and giving the power to the private sector to be able to come in and also contribute to the power quota in the country. It means Delta can now invite private companies to build mini-grids, solar farms, or localized distribution networks without waiting on Abuja. It also means power projects that used to die on paper can now find local financing, faster approvals, and community-based solutions. And most importantly, it means choice. People can finally say goodbye to one-size-fits-none power supply, but there is a caveat where the stakes really rise. The Niger Delta, despite producing over 80% of Nigeria's power generating gas, remains one of the most energy-poor regions in terms of electricity access. And there are still states of the region where many areas experience less than 5 hours of power per day. And that's if they even have. And that's not just a bad policy, it's a crisis. So talking about the path to 24-hour power supply for the people of the Niger Delta region, the conversation around decentralizing generation comes to play. More solar microgrids, gas-powered embedded generation, hybrid models that are owned locally. We're also talking about encouraging industrial clusters. And there's also the conversation around creating a smart subsidy model, not on kerosene or diesel, but on electricity access to rural schools, clinics, and startups. There's also the issue of cutting bureaucracy. And for instance, states like Delta need one-stop investor desks and energy regulators that are transparent, accountable, and fast. And there's also the issue of investing in talents, where there's need for local electrical engineers, linemen, and power entrepreneurs, not just more consultants from Lagos or Abuja, but then looking inward and bringing the talent within the Niger Delta region to be able to contribute effectively to the growth of the power sector now that the Electricity Act has been enacted and domesticated in most states of the Niger Delta region. Let's bring the Niger Delta updates for today. Well, first, the Niger Delta updates today. The Akwa Ibom State Police Command has recovered a large cache of stolen items, including electronics, household appliances, and musical equipment. Commissioner of Police CP Babazare said the items were recovered through coordinated operations across the state, while urging the public to report suspicious movements.
What you are seeing here today is collections of recoveries of stolen items, suspected stolen items from different places in Akwa Ibom State. Based on intelligence available to the command, we were able to ransack those areas and are able to come up with these recoveries as you are seeing. We urge members of the public whose items like these are missing to please come up with their proof of ownership and claim the suspects that are arrested will soon be prosecuted for the offense they committed. I want to employ members of the public to continue to collaborate and give the police more information, useful information that will be able to track down these type of criminals, get them apprehended, and prosecute them in court of law.
So in the Akwa Ibom State, the government has reaffirmed its commitment to the protection of children's rights and the welfare of youths in the state. A governor represented by Deputy Governor Akone Yaganyi made the declaration while receiving a delegation from the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child at Government House, Uyo. The governor highlighted free education, vocational training, and laws to protect children and equip youths for self-reliance. The team lead of the committee, Honorable Robert Nanime, praised the state's investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, describing them as exemplary. He said the visit aims to strengthen partnership on child rights advocacy. Another report brings us to this story: a Christian-Muslim interfaith group advocating the reintroduction of religious studies into Nigeria's school curriculum to help restore moral values and curb insecurity. The call was made at the Christian-Muslim Scriptural Literacy Project 2025 for the South-South region held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Hosts of the event, Archbishop Emma Gospel-Isang, stressed unity and scriptural literacy as tools for national transformation. In his remarks, Imam Shafiu Abdul Karim Majemu also urged Nigerians to embrace love beyond religious divides, noting that religious studies from both faiths would promote respect and responsible citizenship among youths.
Trying to tell Muslims and Christians, go back to scriptures, go back to their holy books, and see that those things that should endear values and help us to have common grounds are available. Many people call themselves Muslims, don't read the Quran, and many who call themselves Christians don't read the Bible. And it is in these scriptures that we find life. And so that's the point of emphasis. We want people who call themselves Christians to show virtue by referring to scripture. We have also discovered that most of the bombings and terrorism cannot be done by a real Muslim who understands Bible or Quran. If you truly understand what God stands for in scripture, both scriptures say do not kill.
Find out that there are a lot of commonalities between the Bibles, the deliverables of the Bible, biblical messages, and the deliverable of the Quranic messages. So these messages, there are a lot of things that they bring us together with, especially when you talk about dialogue of life. So when we look at our thin differences, it keeps dividing us afar and tearing us apart. And we feel we need to bridge the gap of our differences, even though we know we cannot be one in terms of religious practices or anything, and belief, but we can also be one in terms of looking at areas of common interest, like we talked about corruption, we talked about hospitality, we talked about leadership, we talked about issue of good neighborliness. We see that all these things are embedded in our scriptures, both the Quran and the Bible.
On to Edo State, where Governor Mondo Pebo has commissioned a fleet of new Edo Line buses in a move seen as a major step towards reviving public transportation The commissioning held in Benin City drew top political figures, including FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, who praised the initiative as timely and result-driven. Governor Kwebo described the relaunch as a demonstration of his administration's focus on economic revival, effective service delivery, and a people-centered governance. Stakeholders described the move as a transport upgrade and a sign of effective leadership. And lastly, on Niger Delta updates, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, is currently training 305 youths in specialized oil and gas skills at the Center for Marine and Offshore Technology Development, Rivers State University. Executive Secretary, Engineer Felix Omashola Owe, inspected the ongoing training, which draws participants from the Nigerian Oil and Gas Joint Qualification System to tackle local manpower gaps in the oil and gas industry. He urged trainees to maximize the opportunity, stressing that the skills are highly demanded in the sector. There you have it. Niger Delta updates for today. We'll take a breather, and when we return, the focus of the day would form our next conversation, which is, of course, examining Nigeria's performance in oil production and how this relates to the Niger Delta region, especially when we talk about the level of contribution to this feat. So stay tuned. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, in the last few months, we've seen a remarkable bounce in Nigeria's oil production numbers, a welcome turn from the years of theft, shutdowns, and investor flight. But let's be clear, this resurgence didn't just happen from the top. It's happening right here with immense contributions from the Niger Delta region. Now, with over 80% of Nigeria's oil still flowing from this region, the Niger Delta is not just producing barrels, it's now shaping policies, partnerships, and projections for growth. So what's really driving this surge, and is it sustainable? To help us have this conversation, we have joining us to help break it all down, a voice deeply engaged in Nigeria's energy conversation and the complex realities of production at the grassroots level, especially when we talk about the growths that have been witnessed so far. Oil and gas expert and analyst engineer Dr. Godwin Ibe joins us virtually. You're welcome on the program.
Okay.
All right. If you can hear me, I'll just delve straight to the conversation. Can you hear me, engineer?
I can hear you loud and clear, but can you hear me too?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right. So the conversation today is having us talking about the OPEC quota, which, of course, Nigeria announced it was able to reach. And this is significantly reflective of what has been happening in the Niger Delta region when we talk about oil production and the contribution of the region towards the overall success in the country. How significant is this announcement that we have in our hands? And to what extent would you say that this goes ahead to reflect the enormous position that the Niger Delta region plays when we talk about oil production in the country generally?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be with you today. The Niger Delta, as we all know, is very critical and most important in oil and gas production. Essentially, for oil and gas production, if not all, comes from the Niger Delta. So to that extent, Niger Delta is very, very key and important in the whole national economy and oil and gas production. The GMD, they just took off, I think, April 2nd or so, and so far significant progress has been made. You know, when they started, the oil production was about 1.4, but now the oil production is about 1.6 million barrels a day, and then it is planned to increase this to about 2 million barrels a day by the year 2027. So I do not think that the economy of Nigeria can be mentioned without taking into account, the significant contribution of the Niger Delta area into oil and gas production. Thank you.
Well, in regards to the production and output that Nigeria is putting out, talking about oil production now and how this affects in relationship to the OPEC quota rules. Normally, it's supposed to be around 1.7, and Nigeria is targeting 2.3 million barrels per day. Is this not going against the OPEC rules? Can you bring us some understanding regarding that?
Well, as you well know, we are members of the OPEC, and it's important that we abide by the rules and regulations of the OPEC. And so when they give us an OPEC quota, all we try to do is we try to meet that OPEC quota. It is not in the habit of Nigeria to try to exceed that OPEC quota. You want to exceed that, you have to be with full approval of OPEC. So we are not in the habit of going against OPEC quota. Because if every country goes above OPEC quota, then we have problems in our hands. So to that extent, we do our best to abide by the quota given to us. In fact, in times past, sometimes we don't meet that OPEC quota. So what we aim at is to meet the OPEC quota. But if you don't meet the quota, next time around, they are not going to give you as much. Like you rightly said, Nigeria is trying to reach 2 million plus by the year 2027. It's almost impossible for us to meet 2.3 million or thereabouts this year because we just have a couple of months in our hands, and then you don't increase your production by sheer word of mouth. A lot of things goes into it before you can increase your production, your daily production. So yes, we are aiming to meet and exceed 2 million barrels a day by the year 2027. Thank you.
All right. So by some understanding that I have regarding this relationship between Nigeria and OPEC, being part of OPEC, the program that Nigeria has with OPEC restricts it to just crude. Are there other energy products that Nigeria can produce that would make it reach that 2.3 million mark away from crude? Or does the OPEC arrangement restrict Nigeria from any other product whatsoever apart from crude?
Well, as you know, fossil fuel, you have crude oil, you have condensate, and of course you have gas. Usually the accounting takes care of oil and condensate. Gas is differently accounted for. Like we produce about 7 billion standard cubic feet of gas currently. We are aiming to increase to about 10 billion cubic feet of gas by the year 2027. So accounting, how to cap an accounting for gas and that of oil to condensate are quite different. So we have to account for them separately.
All right, let's talk about some of the drawbacks. When we talk about the infrastructural or security drawbacks that still hamper Nigeria's abilities to meet its output dreams. Do you think that there are still some issues that need to be addressed for Nigeria to fully consolidate on the gains that it has recorded so far?
Well, definitely there are a number of issues, some of them social, some of them technical. For example, most of our pipelines, major trunk lines, they are still encumbered with bunkering points. Without mentioning specific pipelines, one pipeline has over 200 bunkering points, another one has 100 and something bunkering points, and these are the points from which barging. Most of the oil companies are barging oil. In other words, they are not really producing through the major pipelines. So that's a major challenge. But once the pipelines are gotten back into 100% availability, which I must tell you is not going to be that easy, then the production is likely to increase. And then each of the companies also, they look at the areas where they are not doing too well, where they have restrictions, and then they try to optimize their production. There's what we call production optimization. You look at your asset and see, things that you need to do to improve production, maybe going down into the wells, to reperforate them or to do some petrol technology activity, or going to your flow stations, to improve the process facilities there, so such things need to be, corrected before you can talk of increasing your production. And I think that the mandate that all those assets that got licenses, I think that they have been given timelines to try and start producing those assets. So when you add all this together, it should help us to beef up our production. But I must say, it needs a concerted effort, it needs dedication, it needs follow-up. It's easier said than done. Talk is cheap, but getting to the level we want, the time and the package we want, is going to take a lot of...
All right, Engineer Ibe. Well, reports have it that the volume of oil theft have reduced from 100,000 barrels per day to about 5,000. A lot of analysts believe that this is remarkable and it helps Nigeria to be able to achieve the feat it has achieved or recorded. Now, do you think that the roles of regional players and persons who are stakeholders in the region have been paramount? We're talking about the security architecture that have been put in place to take care of these oil facilities and installations. How far-reaching have their roles been in ensuring that this feat was possible?
There has been improvement in terms of quantity of oil that is stolen, but it's not 100% yet. And also the security architecture is foolproof. Like I said earlier on, a lot of these companies, they do barging, the barge, rather than producing through the pipeline because of the constraint they have. And then even the barging, proper hydrocarbon accounting needs to be done, because you cannot you may not be able to prevent, completely, diversion of crude. You just need proper security architecture that has to be monitored, continuously, to make sure that we don't have losses.
All right.
Diversion of crude.
All right, Engineer Ibe. Now, talking about the Niger Delta region and who has been doing the heavy lifting, would you say that the role of the Niger Delta region has been appreciated enough? A lot of stakeholders are calling for more concentration and more attention on the Niger Delta. How much of attention has been given to the Niger Delta, and is it commensurate to its contribution so far in what we are now celebrating as oil output and the volume that we have been able to record so far?
If you ask me, this is purely my personal opinion. Others may have a different opinion. But my opinion is that the Niger Delta has not really been well taken care of. That is why we have the agitation. When we joined the oil industry some 45 years ago, early 70s or 47 years ago, the Niger Delta was a very peaceful, quiet place. You could, produce and do anything you like, more or less. There were no hindrances. The people were very, very friendly, and they aided and encouraged us. But with passage of time, because the company, the nation was not really taking good care of the Niger Delta, people. That's why you start having the agitation. For example, a lot of money that's gotten from oil production are used to go and develop other places. While in the Niger Delta, you have minimal development. Hence the issues of NDBC and OMPADEC at the time were set up to try and see how that can be improved. But even then, things didn't go that significantly up. And of course, you have the issue of corruption, that has been dragging us back. I'm sure you and the media, you have a lot of stories about NDBC, a lot of stories about OMPADEC in those days, defunct OMPADEC, So the issue of corruption also has not helped us as a people. So in a nutshell, the nation can do much more for the Niger Delta people than we are currently doing. And of course, the issue of PIE, the Petroleum Industry Act, which was put into law, I think, in August 2021. These are all efforts to improve the impact
all right.
of the oil in the Niger Delta area.
All right, oil and gas expert and analyst, engineer Dr. Godwin Ibe. We must appreciate you especially for making our time to speak with us on the program and bringing us some insight regarding this conversation and what this output means to the country and specifically the Niger Delta region. Thank you for coming on the program.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.